Hi, I'm Ben. Welcome to my book corner. This is my reading wrap up for March of 2026. Just like last month, we're going to go over the books first individually before bouncing into my monthly stats and a look at where I'm up to year to date as we've covered the first quarter of the year, as well as a couple of the things I'm looking forward to for April. Not a great reading month this month in terms of the amount that I've read, but still some decent books to talk about, so let's just dive straight in with the first one. So up first we have Heretic by Noah Isaacs. This is a prelude to the Testament to Broken Gods, Noah's upcoming fantasy series. It's my second book that I've read from Noah Isaacs. I really enjoyed the first one, which was a prequel to the Tales of Aram. This one, a lord, a lady, a priest, or even a bishop, at times a queen. These are the people Var has killed. And next, an emperor. Of all the sort of character bases in fantasy, one of my favourites is the lonely assassin who kind of wants a level of companionship but can't for fear that it will make them weak. And this leans into this really well. On top of this is also a very dark setting with some fascinating little snippets of world building in here, especially around things like religion, which I do appreciate as well. That is a very dark, very complex character. Obviously, this is only 166 pages long, but the amount of complexity that is given to this character in here is really impressively done. This character who kind of despises in some ways what they've become and wants to protect the people they care about, but also is almost unwilling to give their heart over fully. It's fascinating to read. There's some great descriptions in here as well. Some truly icky moments, which I'm not going to spoil. And also there's a really interesting wrinkle at the end of this one and a curious take on morality for some of the characters in this world as well, and the hypocrisy of it in many regards. I really enjoyed this. I was already going to read an Noah Isaacs book this month, but this came down. I did receive this as an ARC, full disclosure for that here as well. But this came through and I picked this one up instead. I'm really glad that I did, and this has got me really excited for the series when it launches later on this year. I gave this 4.5 stars out of 5. This is actually my book of the month as well, so that's Heretic by Noah Isaacs, and this releases on April 5th as well. Up next we have The Rising, book 1 of Crooked Tales by Chris Harrison. This came out in 2024 and I did get this copy for free via Book Sirens. This is book 1 in a series as well. I believe there's 4 books out as of right now. And this is what I will describe as best as a ghost hunter / found footage horror story. In the heart of a derelict, once infamous hotel, believed to be one of Britain's most haunted places, lies a chilling mystery that defies the understanding of the local police. Crooked House, buried deep in the woods of a sleepy village, harbouring a chilling secret with its dark history of unsolved murders and spectral whispers, becomes the stage for a group of unlikely heroes. This focuses on Kane Jackson, who is a wannabe influencer online. We all know how that feels right now. Mainly streaming to 3 people, one of which is his little brother. But he discovers about this place called Crooked House that isn't too far away. And ends up going with his best friend, JJ, as well as a couple of other friends as well. His little brother gets saddled along because he's babysitting and one of their best friends, and they go and investigate this haunted house / hotel. Obviously expecting it to just be a bit of a spooky area with a bit of history, and things quickly begin to unravel with nods to various different sci-fi franchises and tropes throughout. You have the haunted house, you have the sort of creaky moving doorways, you have the sort of almost ring-like transfer of spirits through technology. This has a lot of really creepy imagery, and this is actually a really strong YA horror. This would be a good introduction for someone in their early teens to the horror genre, I feel. It also does something that a lot of found footage and Ghost Hunter horror doesn't manage to do, and it gives us actually likeable characters. Quite often, the characters in books like that feel like they're a bit of an asshole, but Kane feels like a genuinely nice, kind, decent young man who likes what they're doing and is decent to the people around them and not a complete knob all the time. And there is a really good level of tension in here. The ending felt a little bit flat, but this is book one in a series. It just felt like this would have suited itself better if it stayed quite self-contained, whereas this really does pretend into far more earth-shattering events, which are, whilst well done, I would have preferred it to have stayed a little bit more low-key. But on saying that, this would have worked perfectly well as a standalone. I don't know if that was originally the plan for this one. I will absolutely be checking out the next book in the series, though, probably for Don't Die July. There'll be a video coming up about that at some point. Overall, I gave this 3.75 stars out of 5. Up next is one that we have actually done on the channel. This is a choose your own adventure, and this is from Chuck Tingle. Dungeons, Dragons, and Buckaroos, a select your own timeline adventure. So we've done 2 lives on the channel for this one doing the wizard playthrough and one doing a playthrough that is the true Buckaroo playthrough. Both very, very different, it's worth mentioning here. This is not the first book in Chuck and Tingle's Choose Your Own Adventure series, but this does work as a standalone, although I suspect as I work through the earlier books, which I am planning on doing, that we will see possibly a couple of references that I didn't pick up on these playthroughs. Hundreds of years before Billings was the thriving metropolis we know today, it was a medieval kingdom, a sword and sorcery, a fantastical land where dragons lurked within deep caverns, guarding troves of ice-cold milk, and misplaced beasts roaming the forests as unsuspecting victims misplaced their things. It is within this fantasy world that you find yourselves called upon by King Rollo, a sentient 20-sided die, who's heard tale of a great role player destined to bring peace to the kingdom. He presents you with several routes towards your destiny, like that of a ferocious warrior or a mysterious wizard. But is there yet another path lying just beyond the fourth wall? This was a lot of fun. Like all Chuck Tingle books, it is incredibly wholesome. And the 2 playthroughs that I have not done the warrior one yet, were very, very different, with completely different set of events and outcomes, with, as mentioned, one of the playthroughs being a lot more fourth wall breaking. There's lots of nods to other media in here, obviously, as you would expect, Dungeons and Dragons, fighting things like goblins, meeting a bumblebee holder, King Rollo themselves, and the idea of a role-playing group and how difficult, first of all, that can be to get and keep going, and how Fallout can kind of fracture it. This is actually a really, really fun and good choose your own adventure for me personally. It's the first one I've done on the channel. We will be doing book 1 as well at some point in this series, but I'll touch on that later. After the 2 playthroughs, I'm giving this a 4 stars out of 5, especially because of the True Buckaroo playthrough. I think that is the correct way to play this one, as much as anything can be correct. The Wizard playthrough was a lot of fun as well, but was a lot more, I would say, typical Choose Your Own Adventure in the way it was structured, whereas True Buckaroo is a lot more fourth wall breaking. But this was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun with chat on this one as well as we live streamed it. So I gave this 4 stars out of 5. Next up, we have The Fate of Thieves by Tori Tecken. This is a Legends of Brew High book. This is specifically book 1.5. And this was another book that I received as an ARC, so thank you to Tori for that one. This has really whet my appetite for book 2 again. I've been looking forward to book 2 since I read The Bloodstones, which is book 1 in the series. And the minute I saw that this was coming out and there was going to be ARCs, I don't think I filled in an ARC request quicker. So, a little bit of the blurb. Always leave a way out. Orphaned thief Dylan has dreams of becoming a powerful soldier someday and righting the wrongs that have been done to him. Loyally devoted to Carla, his one friend, Dylan is swept into an unrelenting tide of daring escapes, street fights, and a desperate bid for vengeance. Armed with the King's Seal, Master Scholar Lohi travels to Majaro to mediate the trade of weapons to the barbarian tribes of the south. But there is a second secret reason for his journey. To gather a group of boys who will be forged into the Bruhai elite's bodyguard for the future prince. One thing to mention here, this is not an entry point to the series. This is very much, in some ways, kind of a companion piece to Book 1 that fills in a number of historical and lore bits, as well as giving us some time with some of the side characters as well, and giving us some of their backstory, which will actually deepen your understanding of what happens in the Bloodstones. This is also possibly the most dense novella that I have ever read. And it bucks the kind of trend of a novella coming out that acts as a direct prequel to the main book. And whilst this does in some ways take place before, from memory, the Bloodstones takes place over a number of years, so I can't quite get the timeline straight in my head for how this intersects. I believe the majority of this is set before. Also, Dylan is a fascinating character, as it's, again, one of my favourite things in fantasy. It is the street rat character that's sort of plucked from obscurity because of their skills. And also we get more time with Master Lohi, who is a major, I don't know if antagonist is the right word, but a major character within the Bloodstones with far-reaching aspirations of their own. The world building is on point, the characters are believable, they're truly rough around the edges, there is a lot going on. It manages to add extra layers to what was already an epic level fantasy of the Bloodstones. I highly recommend, if you're a fan of epic fantasy, that you give this a check out. It's also worth mentioning here that this is not rooted in the more traditional Western style medieval fantasy or fantasy in general. So it's a slightly different take and pulling from other cultures as well, which is always fun to read. I enjoyed this a lot. I don't believe it was only 116 pages long. I gave this a 4.25 stars out of 5, and I am very, very excited for the full book 2 in this series. The final one is my only audio book of the month, and I'm not 100% sure why I have done this to myself, because book 1, or part 1 I should say, was mildly traumatizing. This was Painter's Obsession Volume 2, written by Luna K. Wicked and narrated by Joe Arden, Mia Moreno, and Corvin King. This comes in at a little over 5 hours long, and this is an MM erotic horror. Some stories aren't just painted in blood. They're carved into flesh, leaving nothing but ruin in their wake. I survived this world, but not without changing me, not without sinking me with him into the void. Turns out, sometimes, in order to set something free, you have to destroy it. First off, this is incredibly dark. This is not a romance. This is an erotic horror. They are not the same thing. The trigger warnings for this, the narrated trigger warnings, are over 3 minutes long. There is a lot in here. I gave this 3.75 stars. A lot of that is due to the outstanding audio work by Joe Arden, Mia Moreno, and Corvin King, as you would expect, giants within the narration community. It's a hard one for me to recommend, just because of what it's covering. If you like pitch black books, you will probably enjoy this. There is no happy ending here. As it says, this is not a romance. This is Stockholm toxic with absolutely no happy ending. That is very, very true. I wasn't sure if I was going to pick this up, but I wanted to know how part 1 would follow on, because it didn't really feel like it needed to follow on, other than the very last chapter when you got the twist. it would have been fine just with the almost happy ending that it got. But just for the performances alone, this was worth listening to. I gave this a 3.75 stars. I suspect if I had read this, I don't think it would have gotten as high. The writing is decently done, and it has got that serial killer vibe, which I quite often enjoy reading about. Because of how dark this is something I think, for me personally, is better fitted to narration. But there we go. That's Painter's Obsession. That was my last book of March. So let's now look at some of the stats. So as previously mentioned, this has not been the best of reading months for me. We completed 5 books in total. We've read a total of 1,035 pages and 5 hours of audio with an average rating of 4.05. Now, it is worth mentioning here that a chunk of that reading time is from a book that I have started at the start of the month and I'm struggling a little bit with, and that is The Wraith Returns by Paul G. Zurith. I'm 200 pages into that. It's about 700 pages long. It's just taking me a while to get through it. Of the books, 2 have been horror, 2 have been fantasy, 1 has been romance, I think that's slightly debatable, science fiction, and erotica, which, yes. 60% print, 20% digital, 20% audio, with Heretic being my book of the month. But by my standards, not an exceptional month in terms of reading, and as you can see from the stats there, the first half of the month I barely read at all. So, bit of a rough month in terms of reading, but that's that. In terms of year to date, though, I am recording this on the 2nd of April, so we are kind of a day over. However, I am currently 6 books ahead of my yearly goal. My goal is 52 books. I'm on 19 so far. I am slightly ahead on pages as well. I'm at 4,348 year to date out of 16,500. So I'm ahead by nearly 200 pages. And I'm also just ahead on audio at 51.7 hours out of 200. So despite having a relatively inauspicious month last month, we are still doing well for the year to date, which is fine by me as I have other stuff going on at the moment. But what am I looking at for the next month of reading? Because there's a few things that I'm quite excited to talk about next month. Let's start with the one I don't really want to talk about, A Court of Frost and Starlight from Sarah J. Maas. This is book 4 in the Court of Thorns and Roses series. This is the shortest book in the series so far, at 272 pages. And look, I agreed to read this series as punishment for apparently making Elaine over at Cobalt Dragon, link in the description down below, making them read it, even though I told them not to because I hated it. And if this book isn't a minimum of 4.25 stars out of 5, this is where I am going to be leaving the series. I do not like book 1. I really liked book 2. I despise book 3 as a missed opportunity. I don't have high hopes for this. It's a short book. It's the lowest rated in the series so far, which bizarrely gives me some form of hope because I seem to be against the grain with this one. But Feyre, Rysand, and their friends are still busy rebuilding the Night Court and a vastly altered world beyond, recovering from the war that changed everything. But winter solstice is finally approaching, and with it the joy of a hard-earned reprieve. Yet even the festive atmosphere can't keep the shadows of the past from looming as Feyre navigates her first winter solstice as High Lady. Her concern for those dearest to her deepens. They have more wounds than she anticipated, scars that will have a far-reaching impact on the future of their court. I am really hoping this has more focus on some of the side characters who felt incredibly sidelined to me in book 3. I do not particularly like Feyre as a character. Feyre and Rysand's relationship lacked a lot of chemistry for me in the last book, even though it really had a lot in book 2. I'm hoping we get more time around the likes of Elaine, Nestor, Cassian, Azrael, maybe even Lucian. I don't know. And I'm curious to see the way the Winter Court is portrayed as well. But I'll be honest, this is probably the book that I'm looking forward to the least of all the books. So if I don't enjoy this, this will be my last read in this series. The next one we've already touched on, Escape from Billings Mal, a select your own timeline adventure from Chuck Tingle. This is the first of Tingle's Choose Your Own Adventure books. It's your son's birthday and you still haven't gotten him a gift. Luckily the Billings Mall is open just a few minutes longer, and if you hurry, you can find him something great. Tonight isn't like other nights at the Billings Mall, however. After a reported timeline tear out by the lake, people are on edge, wondering if this interdimensional event is as harmless as the police would have you believe. Is this a minor rift in reality, or has a pathway been opened to the depths of the endless cosmic void? This is a much shorter Choose Your Own Adventure book than Dungeons and Dragons and Buckaroos. However, I'm looking forward to this one. I do have a physical copy of this. We will be doing this as a live stream at some point during April, maybe 2 live streams, we shall see. Again, it's a much shorter book, so I'm not sure how long they would run. But that is one of the streams we're going to have this month. That is Escape from Billings Mal by Chuck Tingle. Next up, we have a new release, and I didn't know this was coming out, and I'm very, very excited for this. Hyo and the Deep-Rooted Demon. This is a follow-up to Hyo the Hellmaker, which I read, I want to say a year ago. It might have been longer ago at this point, but an absolutely gorgeous book that I feel like deserves a lot more love. I am so happy that this is getting a follow-up. Meet the Hakai family Hellmakers, purveyors of artisan hells and unlucky days to inflict upon your enemies. They'll make it personal, but for a price. Onogoro is in the middle of electing a new chief, but as the deadline looms, a sword-wielding serial killer comes to town. Hyo, busy trying to solve a kidnapping mystery, soon crosses paths with the serial killer himself, who reveals a sinister conspiracy with the future of the island at stake. Promising vengeance, Hyo embarked on her strangest special commission yet, and learns more about the powers of being a Hellmaker. So this releases on April the 9th. I do now have this pre-ordered, so I am very excited to receive this one. The first book had a load of art within the book itself as well, which gave it an almost anime feel at times. An absolutely stunning book. I am really, really excited for this one, and this will probably be my next review on the channel, and I've not done a review for a good few months, so that's something to look forward to. Next up, out at the end of the month, is Hide and Seek by Rex Burke. Now, this does release on April 28th, so it does depend on if I have chance to read it in time. I am intending to, because this is a follow-up to Special Delivery, one of my top books of last year and my favourite Rex Burke book so far, and that is a high bar. There's only one rule in Hide and Seek: don't get caught. In the aftermath of a failed Black Ops mission, a thrown-together crew is hiding out on a remote planet in the outer rim of Federation space. There can be no going back for former soldiers Dix, Vasquez, and Allard, and pilot and ex-smuggler Drake, and the young boy they rescued known as Sol, who has to be kept safe at all costs. The secrets he holds could unleash chaos. I absolutely loved Book 1 Special Delivery. It really did give me vibes of like the humour and the darkness of Starship Troopers, the TV show. Film, I should say. Also, those found family elements from things like Mass Effect. And there was plenty of nods to some great sci-fi genres. There's loads of Easter eggs built into Rex's books. I miss most of them. But it was so well crafted, so well paced, and so much fun. And yet was still incredibly dark and did not shy away from some of the graphic nature of the more militaristic side of this part of the sci-fi genre. So I'm very excited for the back end of April when this will land on my Kindle. That's Hide and Seek by Rex Burke, which is out on April the 28th. Finally, just for a little bit of fun, I picked up a book called Doppelbanger by W.H. Lockwood. So this released back in February, taking self-love to a whole new dimension. August Blackthorn, pitifully broke, check. Fresh from a messy breakup, check. The apparent object of some weirdo stalker's affection, unfortunately, also check. But everything changes when I finally get a chance to confront the guy who's been terrorizing me, only to discover that he's actually me, from a parallel universe. A smarter, more confident, sexy quantum physicist version of me. And for some reason he wants my help. You'd think a super genius like him could find a better way to say hi, wouldn't you? August Blackthorn, the other one. This was supposed to be simple. Find the version of me in this reality, put our two genius brains together, and fix the problem I've created. Only this August isn't a quantum physicist like me. He's a bodybuilding, muscle-loving, karate-teaching absolute sweetheart. And I'm falling hard for him. The kind of hard that could destroy the universe. Because unless we can find a way to undo this mess, his whole existence will be torn apart, atom by atom, including him. But when he finds out who I really am and what I've done, I know he'll never want to see me again. How am I supposed to save the universe when doing it will destroy the one person I truly care about? Doppelbanger is a mind-bending, world-ending, utterly outrageous, action-packed, spicy sci-fi rom-com of your most warped daydreams, the ultimate story of self-love, weird science, and romance that defies the barriers of time and space. HEA guaranteed. 508 pages long. I have a physical edition of this one that I picked up. It just seems like a lot of fun, and you got to have some romance every month, right? Right, and it's a rom-com, not something I normally read. So hopefully I'm going to be able to get through that one this month as well. But speaking of the month ahead, what do we have planned? So I'm seeing April as my return to booktube month. So there are a couple of things currently planned in. I've already mentioned I am intending to do at least one review this month. I've already touched on that in the plans, so I'm not going to go over that again here. I also currently have one reading sprint planned. I am hoping to do more than that. That is dated for the 13th of April. And I'm also going to be doing at least one, possibly two live streams of the read/playthrough of Escape from Billingsmall by Tingle, because I had a lot of fun when we did Dungeons, Dragons and Buckaroos, so why not continue? On top of that, there is potentially going to be a couple of tag videos this month, as I have been tagged in loads of things which I have not done, because I've been in a corner rocking largely, or video gaming instead. And finally, as well, there is going to be a continuation of the live group book tag that we're doing with myself, Noah over at the Bookworm, who will be the one hosting this time, and I believe it's going to be an original tag. I don't know what it is yet. That's exciting and terrifying. The amazing Scottish book buying champion JJ, Elaine over at Cobalt Dragon, Kat at Ginger Bibliophile, and Margaret from Margaret Pennard. I will link them all down below for you to check them out. So that's going to be fun. I'm pretty sure that is the 18th of April, but I could be wrong. But that is a live stream, so tune in for that one. And then we shall see what else the month brings. I also have stuff going on elsewhere on Twitch and my gaming channel. They are also in my link tree if you wish to check them out. Well, that's it from me. Not the best of Marches, but it could have been far worse, and we're still fine year to date. But let me know in the comments, what are you reading at the moment? What are you looking forward to in April as the warmer weather begins, at least here, hopefully. Fingers crossed, you never can tell with British weather. Well, that's it from me. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your week. And I will catch you all very, very soon.